Hi, Mr. Walensky.
Okay, Selena. Oh, nice background. All right.
Yeah.
You're right down the hall. How are you this morning?
I'm good. What if no one shows up? It'd be so funny.
You mean like no audience members?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's happened before. I
really?
kind of doubt it because like a few people like wrote me last night to say how excited they were. So
Oh, that's nice. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Sorry, I'm just looking at the emails that came in overnight. Yeah, great. Yeah, I'm doing well. It was fun night of duty last night and good day today. I don't have anything to do today except this and like shuttling people to town later on. So not too bad as far as like Sunday duty goes.
Yeah,
How are you doing?
I'm good. I got excused from chapel because I performed in chapel yesterday.
Oh,
So
nice.
great start. And then I have cello class, which I'm really excited for. 'Cause I haven't had one in a really long time.
Who's the teacher?
Mr. Ajia, he's a alumni here.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Didn't know that. The kid, oh, you met him, right? You met Daniel's father probably with
Yeah,
it.
I didn't see him.
Yeah.
But I
Uh,
know, but I know that he plays the cello.
I
I've heard.
know. Like William, I guess, went to his school and was like, yeah, I don't like, I know him just because he is like a super good cello player. So,
Yeah.
okay. All right. All right. Good morning, friends. All right. Good morning. I think we're just waiting for Zoe. Let me send her. Oh, and Miss Angelica as well. Should be on soon. Let me send her a text real quick. Hey Zoe, sorry, I just sent you a text. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here so early. So real quick, let's see. Some details first. So Heidi, I got your order, so no problem. I'll get that. And then where do you want us to bring it to you?
I think just front of founders is fine. I'll probably be in the building.
Okay, cool. I'll send you a text or an email when I get back. Is everyone else going to go to Starbucks, or do you want me to pick your order up for you?
I'm going to Starbucks with you.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So we'll meet right out in front after we're done. We'll go to Starbucks, and then I did get special permission since you got up early on a Sunday. You will be excused from chapel today. So let's not spread and brag and make a big fuss out of that, because I'm a little over my authority level on that, but I checked with Mr. Robinson. I think it's cool, so we're good to go. You will not get marks. I already checked with Dave Myers about that.
Can we do orientation every Sunday?
Yeah. Well, there's always the van just left for Catholic Mass if you'd rather do a different option on Sunday morning, but that does require you to get up even earlier. So just wanted to thank you all before we get started, especially Oscar for hosting Daniel earlier this week. I know a couple of you spoke with him or connected with his dad. He was one of my like very favorite kids from this process, like really felt like a St. Andrews student to me. So fingers crossed. I haven't heard back. I mean, I got a nice note from him, but haven't heard back from him on whether he's coming. So we shall see. And then just want to review the agenda for this meeting and make sure we're all good. So I'll do, we'll start the recording. I'll do like my little spiel. I'll turn it over to everyone. We'll sort of go down the list. And what I want you to be ready to do is introduce yourself, introduce like where you're from, what grade you came to St. Andrews, and what your sort of your list of activities, your favorite things about St. Andrews. And then Zoe and Heidi as seniors, can you guys talk? Are you ready to talk a little bit just about International House in general? Like what we do, activities, things like that. Cool. And then I'm hoping, and well, Angelica's going to sign on right at 8:30. She said she'll talk a little bit about international orientation, and then we'll do Q&A. And so the Q&A, my goal is for these Zooms, it's not 2021 anymore. So like 15 minutes of talking from us, and then like open topic Q&A from the audience. Hopefully they have lots of questions. If it's feeling a little stale, I'll probably throw out some of the questions that I have sort of like in advance. So like travel questions, visa questions, questions about like transportation, things like that. So we'll throw out some of those, and then also just be ready to talk about sort of your favorite moments, whether it's International House or one of the affinity groups, your favorite moments of like kind of sharing culture, right? Like tastes of home, like those sorts of things. And then we'll go from there. Any questions? Cool. There's like an annoying noise coming from the business office, so I'm going to pause for a second. I will be right back to fix that. Okay. Zoe, what room are you in? I don't recognize that one.
Mr. Cunan's room.
Oh, yeah. All right. All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. Did everybody go all the way home for spring break? Or were you traveling here in the States?
I went back home.
Nice. Feels like we're almost back to normal with travel anyway. Oh, there we go. Hey, Angelica. Good morning. All right, we went through the agenda. Do you want me to pick you up something from Starbucks? Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. So yeah, I'll do my spiel. And then we'll start introductions with you, Angelica, and then we'll go through the whole group. And then just after Zoe and Heidi talk a little bit about International House. If you can be ready to talk a little bit about like international orientation. And it looks like actually minus us, I think we have like 19 people registered, so it's a pretty big group.
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
So like in your agenda, you said be ready to introduce yourself, where are you from? And then what activities you do. So like what exactly are the activities? Like are they like sports?
Yeah,
Or-
just I would say like the thing that we really want to emphasize is like how well-rounded we all are.
Okay.
So like,
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to list like every single club meeting you've ever attended.
Mhm.
Like talk about what you do in all the afternoons, talk about, the major clubs that you're a part of or activities that you're a part of, talk
Mhm.
about like what dorm you live on, that sort of stuff's all important. Yeah, good question, Connie. Thank you. I'm just looking through the registration list. So looks like we have China, Australia, Hong Kong, Germany, Argentina, South Africa, Korea. Oh, she's from California, but originally from China. Yeah, good group. Oh, and a couple of, I can't remember. Oh, Zoe, you did, obviously. Connie, Selena, I can't remember. Did you all go to junior boarding school? I can't remember. Before St. Andrews, or you came directly here? Okay. Yeah. So Zoe, there's a girl from, oh shoot, where's she from? Oh, Bement. There's a girl from Bement on here. So yeah, maybe talk exactly as you're introducing yourself, also talk about like what school you came from, that sort of thing would be helpful. Oh, and Zoe and Cooper, Retta Brigetti from South Africa is on here. Zoe, did you talk to Cooper about like hanging out with their parents over break? Like Cooper was telling me at lunch the other day, apparently like he sat with them for like an hour and they just like grilled him about St. Andrews. So
Oh. Wait, my parents?
no.
Oh.
Remember when you toured the Brigettis, the guy who's the ambassador to South Africa?
Yeah.
It's him and his family, but especially
Oh.
his mom. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you to all of you for all you do, sitting in rooms getting grilled by people. So, all right, here we go. Oh. Huh. That's cool. And we have an accepted student who's just an international student, or not an international student. She's from New York. I think she's just signed up for every webinar. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, everybody ready? There we go. Great backgrounds, everyone. Great lighting. And we will get started. All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome virtually to St. Andrews on what here in Delaware is a beautiful Sunday morning. We've had like 4 days of rain this week, and today it is beautiful and sunny, and I expect a lot of us will be out on the front lawn later today. So we're just going to give it a minute for everybody to come into the room, and then we'll get started with the program. St. Andrews folks, were you the first one up on your dorm this morning? Was anyone awake and stirring, or were you the early bird?
I think it was just me and Jess this morning.
All
Ran into each other in the hallway. But
right.
my roommate's still knocked out.
Yeah, my wife grumbled a little bit when the alarm went off this morning. So I apologize to your roommates as well. Thank you for getting up early. All right, let's see. So we had about 20 folks registered. I just want to give it another minute, make sure everyone can get on. For our audience, thank you so much. No matter where you are in the world, no matter what time zone, we appreciate you taking a little bit of time to be with us today. This is the International Student and Faculty Roundtable at St. Andrews. My name is Matt Walensky. I'm the Director of Admission here at St. Andrews. Ironically, my presence on this panel is probably the most counterintuitive since I grew up about 2 kilometers from here. I can almost see my house that I grew up in when I climbed the bell tower. And the reason that I'm here in part is because as admissions director, I sort of oversee all the processes that brought you here today. Congratulations again, by the way, to accepted students and parents. And in part because international students and families are such an important part of the St. Andrews community. When I showed up as a student in the fall of 1996, I had 2 roommates. I was a farm boy from Delaware. I had a roommate from the Bronx, New York, and I had a roommate from Seoul, South Korea, right? So all of our worlds got a little bigger the moment we moved into that room on Fleming Dorm. And as a global school, I think, St. Andrews international population has only grown in the last 25 years since then. But more importantly, I think the student and family experience has grown and improved in the time since I started. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. We recognize that there's sort of unique benefits, unique joys, and some unique challenges to coming from such a long distance to St. Andrews. But what we want you to sort of walk away with is the sense that you're welcomed, you're treasured as part of the community, and we work with you to make sure that you have the best experience possible for your particular needs. So we're going to step aside for just a moment, introduce my colleague, Angelica Huang Murphy, who is an amazing teacher, admissions officer, advisor, a little bit of everything else here. And then we'll just do introductions of all of our student panelists. So Angelica, if you want to take it away from there.
All right. Hello, everyone. I don't know what time zone you're in. I am Mrs. Huang Murphy. I am from Shanghai, China. So yeah, I have not been here at St. Andrews as long as Mr. Walensky, obviously. This is only my 2nd year, but I have really loved having the different roles here at St. Andrews. And I do remember getting to know some of you through your applications in the winter. So it's just really exciting to see your faces today and some parents on Zoom. And we have a wide array of resources for you today, right, from the International House. So there are some varsity athletes and very talented musicians and scholars in different fields and disciplines. So please feel free to ask as many questions as make use of them, right? And hopefully together we'll be able to convince all of you to choose St. Andrews as your high school. So welcome.
Absolutely. And sorry, just before we go on with introductions, thanks, Angelica. We are recording this because we did get a couple requests from folks who wanted to see it. I think time zones might have gotten the best of some of our registrants. We're missing several people as well. So feel free to turn your camera on if you want to chat or drop a question into the chat, but just know that we are recording it. So let's start with introductions, and why don't we start with our seniors, Zoe and Heidi. Zoe, why don't you kick things off, and then we'll go down the Zoom screen.
All right. Hi guys. I'm Zoe. I'm from Bermuda. I'm a senior this year, but I came to St. Andrews as a new sophomore. Before that, I went to kind of like a boarding middle school, so I'm kind of used to the kind of boarding kind of feel. Yeah, some things that I do here are I'm the co-head of International House, as Mr. Lewinsky just said. I'm also the co-head of Casa Latina and Adaptive Dance. And then I also play the violin in the orchestra.
Thanks, Zoe. Heidi?
Hi, everyone. I'm Heidi. I'm a senior here, and I'm from Daegu, South Korea. And a little bit about what I do here. As Mr. Walensky said, I'm the co-head of International House. I'm also the co-head of our school's Model UN team. And I play the drums for the jazz ensemble and play as the goalie on our varsity soccer team.
Thanks, Heidi. Hopefully a good season off to the start with soccer. Let's next, why don't we go to our juniors? So Cooper, how about you next?
Hi, I'm Cooper. I'm a junior here at St. Andrews. My family lives in South Africa right now, but when I applied as a new freshman, I applied out of Nigeria. So small American international school there. I'm a part of Adaptive Aquatics. I'm on the first varsity boat for crew, and I am the swim team captain.
Thanks, Cooper. Good first day of racing yesterday. Congrats on that as well. Oscar.
Hey guys, my name is Oscar. I'm from Shanghai, China. So I applied here as a freshman. So I came here in 9th grade, but I didn't physically came here because of the pandemic. So I did a year of classes online, and then came here in my sophomore year. So for sports, I do cross country in fall, swimming in winter, and crew for spring. And for my free time, I just enjoy chilling in my own room and others, I guess. I live on Sherwood, so it's a really big but close-knit community. That's it.
Thanks, Oscar. And since he won't brag on himself, he did just win a county level science fair competition. So Oscar, well done. Congratulations on that, my friend. Selena, how about you next?
Hi everyone, my name is Selena Bao and I'm a junior. I am from Shanghai, China in Toronto, Canada. I came in as a new sophomore, and before St. Andrews, I went to public schools in both China and Canada. My favorite activities at school is I am the first chair cello in the orchestra. I am a junior leader of the environmental stewards. I'm a co-head with Heidi of the East Asian Affinity Group, and I'm also a part of the theater program at St. Andrews.
Thank you, Selena. And last but not least, Connie, who our admissions MVP for the year, I think. Everyone I met, I interviewed probably 50 international students, and I think 38 of them were like, we learned about St. Andrews thanks to Connie. So Connie, how about you introduce yourself as well?
Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm Connie, and I'm from Beijing, China. I'm currently a freshman at St. Andrews, and I'm part of the Asian Student Union and the cross-country swim and crew team, and a lot more. And I'm also a big fan of just staying in a practice room and playing piano.
Thanks for those introductions, everyone. Just as a last couple things we want to share sort of up front before we take your questions. International House is sort of the group for all international students. And as I said in the invitation, the way that we define that is pretty much anyone who has to show a passport to fly from home to St. Andrews, or come to St. Andrews, or in some cases, folks who have just moved to the US, folks, Americans who live abroad, anyone who sort of has that international experience. And so you see some of that diversity here today. But as leaders of the International House, Zoe and Heidi, maybe you all could start off just a little bit about what IH is, what we do, and what that looks like from the international student experience.
Yeah, so International House is, as Mr. Walensky said, a group specifically for international students and students who have experience living abroad. And I think a big part of the group is quite simple. It's just to make sure that we know each other and we have each other, because as Mr. Walensky introduced, being international at St. Andrews comes with its own unique experiences and its own unique challenges. And I think it's always good to know that we know who we can go to if we have questions, or if we have a specific need relating to like home, or like homesickness or food, etc., etc. The goal of International House is to make sure that all those students and all those needs are accommodated for, and kind of have fun while we do that, and spend time with each other, eat good food with each other. Yeah,
I love how food keeps coming up, right? Big part of it. So you want to add to that, and specifically any activities or programs that you really treasure as an IH leader?
Yeah, so just to expand on what Heidi said, International House, the members of International House is definitely not kind of like you just meet and that's only when you kind of hang out with each other. I've had a senior, her name was Yo-Yo, and she was on my dorm, and I talked to her like all the time about literally anything, because I just went to her room. She was also my advisory, so it's definitely something that's not kind of like only on Wednesdays we talk and we hang out with each other. It's definitely throughout the whole kind of school day, school year, everything like that. But when we do have meetings, we have functions. Food is there a lot. So we just kind of like talk with each other, hang out. That's kind of like more of a time when everyone can come and see each other, because obviously our days are very busy here. So it's a little bit easier when everyone can be in one room together and just kind of hang out. So yeah, that's kind of what we do mostly.
Absolutely. Anybody else have a favorite sort of international moment? I loved this week. This year, Lunar New Year happened to fall during a long weekend. So exams had just wrapped up. So I loved sort of, and again, it comes back to food and celebration, right? We had those moments to share together. Anybody else have a sort of favorite moment?
Yeah, I mean, again, food does play a giant part, and honestly, my favorite part is along that line too. I think, as Zoe said, kind of being part of International House is more like an aspect of your everyday life, and not just kind of like a few times a year kind of thing. And my favorite moments have quite literally been during like long weekends, when a lot of us end up staying on campus, because going back home is a lot of work. We have to get on planes and such. So when we all stay on campus, we end up cooking with each other, and especially around like holidays. For me, as an East Asian, I think kind of like making dumplings with each other and just cooking food from home on dorm during those long weekends has probably been some of the best memories I've had at St. Andrews.
Absolutely. There's a great question in the chat. How many students? I'm sorry, we should have addressed that from the top. There's about 50 students who in some way fall under that umbrella as international. So really, that's approaching 1/6 of the student population. International passport holders is about 10%. I think we have 29 international non-US citizens this year. So again, a mixture. Great question. And then just to add, I wanted to thank Heidi and especially her older sister April, who graduated last year. We have cool swag too, right? Like, you know, we've got these moments where we come together and sort of unite. But I love, thank you guys for sharing. It's part of the daily life. It's part of the daily experience. It's who you are and what you bring and share. So thank you. One big part of the experience that we wanted to make sure you knew as prospective new families, we do have a special program, an orientation program for new international families that takes place 2 days before the main opening of school when most new students arrive. So we've been doing it for several years, but this year Angelica stepped into a leadership role in that. Angelica, do you want to talk a little bit about international orientation?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. All right, so Matt was asking what is your favorite international moment? And for me personally, it's truly the international orientation the program. It's partly because I myself was an international student like 10 plus years ago. I remember how nervous, but also very excited. So definitely doing this, being the mentor on the program definitely is one of my favorite experience at the St. Andrews. So this year, the orientation will be on September 1st and 2nd, and we will soon send invitations to all of our new international students and families. And then we have different programs throughout the 2 days, and you will meet our head of school, Ms. McGrath, and many faculty and student members of International House. So you'll probably be expecting maybe 20 International House members who are already arrived for preseason or simply wanted to show up and support. So there will be a welcome reception for everyone and ice-breaking activities in the evening. And usually Mr. Walensky will bring some ice cream social at the end to sort of end of the day. And the next day you'll have an in-depth campus tour and different panels for students and parents to get all of your questions answered. We usually finish up the program with a town trip to local stores like Walmart to get some shoppings done. So the orientation will be a very valuable transition time for all the students, not just to recover from the jet lag from the long flights, right? But also really feel plugged in and connected with all of the immediate resources around you at St. Andrews. So please be excited and stay tuned. We will definitely share more information later in the spring.
Yeah, absolutely. And that the jet lag piece is really valuable. And that's why actually we invite all international students, new and returning, back to that international orientation on it'll be September 1st this year, just so you have 2 or 3 days to sort of ease in. We definitely build in time for togetherness and time to get adjusted to the schedule if you're flying direct. So there's a question in the chat. Orientation is September 1st and 2nd, and then opening days on the 3rd. Monday the 4th will be sort of orientation activities for the whole community, and then classes start on the 5th. So you know, we hope everyone on this call will be available for international orientation on the 1st, but if not, the 3rd is the day that you'll really need to come to campus for sure next fall. So great questions are coming already. And I just wanted to, as a last sort of logistical piece, talk about visas, transportation, things like that. Part of the reason I'm on this group, this committee, is because I oversee like the CVIS visa process for those of you who will need F1 visas to come to St. Andrews. We've got that down. We have a great liaison at the Department of Homeland Security. We'll do everything we need to make sure you can get that. Transportation, we run shuttles to Philadelphia Airport, JFK Airport. Those are the 2 most popular for international travel. But if you need Dulles, if you need Newark in New Jersey, we can certainly figure out a way to make sure you can get to where you need to get. A St. Andrews driver will pick you up and take you if your parents can't be there with you. And then the last little logistical piece is just after everything we've been through in the last 3 years, if there's ever any disruption, we're here to work with you. My favorite International House memory is actually, for those of you who know what it's been like to fly back to China the last 2 years, you had to go to New York, take a test one day, wait 24 hours, take another test at a different specific clinic, and then go to JFK. And like staying at the hotel, the JFK Hilton, with a group of 5 to 7 international students was such fun at the end of the last 2 years. And it really did sort of help ease the strain of the pandemic logistics. Likewise, Oscar will remember he came and there were quarantines on this end. And Oscar, where did you stay for your 10-day quarantine?
I stay in the house of the head of the school, Miss McGrath. It is really interesting because it's my first time stepping on campus as an admitted student, and then I get to live in the head of the school's house, and it is pretty fun.
Yeah.
And I just really feel, and I really feel welcomed because like when me and Kevin, when we arrived on campus that night, it was like 3 a.m. and then Miss McGrath and her husband, they just wait for us like outside their house, which is very nice of them. Like I won't be willing to be up at 3 a.m. to wait for 2 kids, but I mean, apparently they did, and they really made us feel like home.
That's what we do, right? So just know that anytime there's disruptions like that, and this is especially a parent concern sometimes, you know, we don't close the doors and put the kids out on the curb if they can't get home. We figure it out. And the other thing that did any of you all, I think, Heidi, did you stayed with a host family, right? At some point during the pandemic?
Beginning of sophomore year, I stayed at the Firmenich house for a couple of weeks for quarantine. Yeah.
So there's an amazing network of local parents, local alums. I love the stories of how, you know, if you remember all the way back to March of 2020, the sort of, oh, we're gonna delay spring break by about 2 weeks and then it'll all be fine, right? And then of course, some of those homestays turned into several months. So we've got a great domestic support network around here as well. So with that, I just want to open it up to questions. We've got a lot of different countries, a lot of different families represented on this call. I'd be happy to answer any questions. And of course, we've got the best resource of all, which is students and teachers. So,
hey, Matt.
Yeah.
Just a follow-up question on the chat. So the move-in date for international students are on the 1st? Or
yes.
Can they, okay.
Yep, that's correct. Yep. Moving in on the 1st, you move in a couple days early, set your room up, and get that sleep. Thank you for catching that, Angelica. I just saw it. So great. Other questions? What else is on your mind? Good group.
Question from a mom who noticed that you guys eat a lot of food. So what are you allowed to cook, and what are your actual kitchen options? Like, I remember when I was in college, we were always trying to hide like a toaster oven behind our heads whenever the TA would or the RA would walk in. You couldn't have a toaster oven, but you could have a microwave and a fridge. So what do you recommend? Obviously those things you would just buy there locally, but what do you feel like you need as a student on campus? In your dorm room, that is.
I think in every single common room for every single dorm, there are like microwaves, there are stoves, like you don't really need to buy anything yourself. I think the dorm will provide it for you. So yeah, there are toasters as well and fridge. So.
Yeah, we do have some rules around, you know, as you can probably imagine, anything that can create fire, we're careful with. So I think that, you know, small appliances generally you're not allowed to have in your room, but they are in the common room. But I think pretty much everybody has like a hot pot or something they can bring out to the common room and plug in when needed, right?
Yeah, so like I know all of my friends and we keep some snacks in our room, sealed food, and then every dorm has a microwave and a fridge. So you won't actually need your own fridge in your own room because we have like tubs in our fridge for each individual room. So you could go put something in there to keep it cold. Nobody takes that. And yeah, you can basically make food whenever you want. So
Good question.
I have another parent. Somebody mentioned that you tend to go kind of hang out and put together for long weekends as students go home for long weekends. So is it generally assumed that most of the US based students, if there's a long weekend or whatever, will not stay on campus, and therefore the international students need to find ways to provide for themselves during that time?
Yeah, what would you guys say? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think I could take this one. I think a lot of people do go home during that time, but I wouldn't say that you would have to provide for yourself necessarily. I think people choose to stay on campus because I know every time there's a long weekend, I have like 5 people ask me if I want to come with them. And a lot of the times I do take them up on that. Like I'm always hanging out with my friends in New York City or wherever they're going. But I think people decide to stay on long weekend to hang out with each other here because that's also like a viable option. People are running around in the fields all the time, you know. There's just a bunch to do on campus during long weekend.
Yeah, I think.
Quick show of hands, who stayed either fall or winter this year for long weekend? And then who left for long weekends? Yeah, it's usually I would say there's Angelica, were you on duty on either of the long weekends this year?
No, I'm on duty in spring. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
so I was gonna say like fall and and especially winter tends to be small. You know, you might only have 30 or 40 students staying on campus. Fall's a little bigger, but you also have a lot of students doing like college visits. Spring, I feel like 100 people stay because it's just like a nice 5-day weekend. And have you ever done long weekend duty, Angelica?
Oh my gosh, I was just gonna say last year I was on long weekend duty in the winter, and then that's when we had the whole school stay because of COVID. I don't know if you remember, it was like an entire school body. So I think that's echoed with what Matt said earlier about the school really work with you if disruptions happen. We work through like a approach together to kind of go through it. So, and it ended up okay. And we had other faculty stepped in to help with different duties. So, yeah, I think we all just making sure that all students are taken care of.
The spring one tends to be a lot of domestic students even tend to stay because it's nice weather. There are crew races that go sort of part way through. So then it's like, why leave for only a day or two? And a third of the faculty is on duty every long weekend, and our job during that long weekend is to just students wherever they want to go. Right. So that might be, sort of restaurants that might be, I've taken groups to DC before, or we've just sort of hung out, relaxed, recharged, gone for nice walks, watch Netflix, right? Like those are popular. What do you guys like to do on long weekends, students? Any favorite pastimes when it does come up?
Oh.
Sorry, go for it.
I didn't really stay during long weekend, but I actually during long weekend, I have a lot of international friends. They went on a trip to Philadelphia to have hot pot, and because I stayed at Philadelphia, so I was able to join them on a hot pot trip and like just basically tour around Philadelphia's Chinatown. It was really, really fun. It was a great bonding activity.
Yeah, I was also gonna say the Philly trip is probably the biggest, most popular activity for students who stay over long week. Personally, I really liked going to Main Street. I know like Main Street is just like a small part of like Delaware, near campus, but I went with a really good group of people and I learned a lot about, I don't even know, Dungeons and Dragons from Finn O'Connell. So I think a lot of friend groups end up just staying over a long weekend because they want to hang out with each other and spend time. Of course, a lot of us are offered like places to stay from friends and like roommates and such. but a lot of us just choose to stay here because the faculty does such a good job of keeping us entertained for 4 days, and taking us to different places. So the long weekend ends up being a really fun couple of days, and not just like a boring 4 days where everyone else goes home and we just stay behind wallowing over the fact that we can't go home. I think long weekend is a great opportunity to bond with other friends and spend time with each other.
Yeah. Thanks, Heidi. Perfect. And I think one thing to emphasize, because I know this is often a concern, long weekends are one thing. And of course, vacations, Thanksgiving, Christmas, spring break, we make sure everybody can find a way to get home or a place to go. Regular weekends at St. Andrews, though, it's really important for international students to know that we're not the sort of school that empties out on the weekends, right? A normal, we have so much going on, Saturday morning activities, games, competitions, things like that. So it's not like everyone who can get in a car and go home goes home on a regular weekend. So like this weekend, I was on duty and I think there were only about 20 students who had left for the weekend, for family events or college visits or other things like that. So if that's a concern, I know that's a concern at other schools for some families. It doesn't end up really being right. I mean, is that fair, students? I just want to make sure that that's what I normally say, but feels fair anyway.
20 seems like a lot normally for here.
Yeah, and I think that was only because Kazi was home for Ramadan, like those sorts of things. If you have a family event, you're absolutely welcome. But question, do we have sponsor families, like like host families, things like that? Is that the nature of your question? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not officially necessarily for international students, except for our German exchange student. But when it's necessary, we find someone who hosts. So if you're a student who, even for the long breaks, you're not able to get home, we're going to work with you and your family to make sure you have somewhere to go. And oftentimes that's really easy. Have any of you ever spent like a longer break, like a Thanksgiving or something, with a friend from St. Andrews?
It wasn't with like specifically at her house, but I know like last Thanksgiving break I wasn't able to go home, so I booked a hotel room, but I ended up spending a lot of time with my roommate because she lived right nearby in New York. So yeah.
Then I remember Connie or Selena, didn't Amanda host like a bunch of people last year? Were you part of that group?
Oh yeah. During winter break, I stayed at Amanda's for a week, and then I went back to one of my families in Michigan. So it was a fun time. It was only me, Iru, and Amanda, but it was really cozy.
Yeah, and again, we're gonna make sure that you have a place to go. Oftentimes that's just organic. Like you get, as I think Cooper said, you get so many invitations that it actually becomes more of a problem choosing where to go. But if not, like, we're here to help. Oh, great question. Students, how often do you speak with your parents? Let's go down and have everyone answer that, just so we get a sense of diverse answers to that question. Yeah, let's start with Zoe.
Okay. I actually talk to my parents a lot. I kind of keep them updated on everything. But yeah, so I talk to them a lot, but actually my brother who went here was kind of the complete opposite of me. He was just out with his friends all the time, like wasn't really calling all the time. So my mom had to like kind of be like, hey, remember me? But again, I will say that like if like my parents were always kind of like, well, that means that he's like actually outside hanging out with friends and like having fun and being with everybody, because we aren't allowed to take our phones off dorm. So again, I would say that it's kind of like a good thing, really, if like your kids isn't calling you like all the time. But it definitely is easier for like, because we do have periods of time where you are on campus, so that's kind of, or on dorm, sorry, and that's kind of like when I call my parents. So I call them like almost every day. So yeah.
How many of you are in the like almost everyday category for parents? Okay, all right. Anybody on the other who's more like Will Gray was, who's more like your advisor has to come find you and make you call your parents? All right, the rest of you sort of in the middle a little bit. Yeah, can anybody speak? You know, I think one of the challenges can be time zones. Can anybody speak to like finding a good time to video chat, talk with your parents across time zones?
Yeah, I guess that kind of works for me because my family is all over like the world. My dad's in Baghdad right now. My mom's in South Africa. My brother's in boarding school in New Hampshire. So we have a lot of different time zones and like different stuff that's happening all over the place. But at minimum, I call my parents once a week. So we all collectively have found a time on Sunday for like 30 minutes that we can do a group call. And so that's when I talk to them all at the same time. But then like I also I'm constantly like messaging my family, you know, an occasional call as well throughout the week to them individually. So it's not like it's not that much of an issue. You always find some sort of time, you know. Yeah.
Thanks. Oh, go ahead.
So my dad is back in China. Usually if I call him during the 10 to 10:30 period. That's the time where after study hall, people shower and like brush their teeth, but there are extra time that like we can use. I use that time to call my dad because there's a 12-hour time difference from here in China. But I think it gets more flexible when you become a junior or senior because you get to keep your phone with you after lights out. So sometimes I do that too, but during my sophomore year, I usually just call my parents during 10 to 10:30 time.
Yeah, Selena, thank you. And I just wanted to make sure, like, you know, one of the things you've probably learned about St. Andrews through the admissions experience is we've got a pretty strict cell phone policy compared to a lot of places. But one of the things that we're really careful about is for international students to call home, like, we've got that, right? So even if the rule is you can't call during a certain time, all you need to do is talk with your dorm parent, talk with the senior on duty. We're never going to be like, no, you can't call your parents, you know, particularly if you're trying to account for a 12-hour time difference or something like that. Actually, we might have some Australians next year, which I think will be an even a unique time difference that we haven't had. We had a student from New Zealand about a decade ago, so we'll work with you on that. There's a great question in the chat about AS courses. Sobin says, you know, can we explain more about what they are, you know, maybe compared to IB or AP courses? Angelica, do you want to step in and take that just first from a faculty perspective, and then maybe we'll hear it from some students?
Yeah, I think all of our AS courses and ATT courses are really not so test oriented, right? So, because that's the whole concept of our curriculum, is to really help the students have the real life skills rather than being able to pass a test and score 5 out of 5. So that's sort of the concepts behind it. And I'm not as familiar with the IB curriculum. But I would say just compared to AP, from a faculty perspective, we have more freedom in choosing the materials, more up to date, and be able to, you know, work with the students. It's usually a very small classroom with maybe 4 or 5 in my experience for Chinese, and other students can step in and see, you know, tell us maybe a little bit about what, how big your class is and what material. Let's say just choose a topic of history, AS history classes. What are usually the class size and what are you currently learning? Maybe that could be like more of like a real life example of what AS classes could be.
Yeah. How many? Oh, and just to define terms, AS, advanced studies,
right?
And then ATT is even a level above that, which is advanced topic tutorial. So if you think of AS as like the St. Andrews version of AP, as Angelica said, a little less test driven, a little more exploratory, in depth. What, raise your hand. How many of you are taking AS classes this year? Yeah. So real quick, just which ones are you taking? Selena.
Oh, I'm taking AS Calculus, BC, AS French, AS Research Sem this year.
Yeah. Heidi.
Oh, I'm currently taking AS Modern Middle East, AS Spanish, AS Physics, I guess AS English,
Yeah, all English.
ATT Math,
Yeah.
AS Research Sem, AS Astronomy.
Yeah. Heavy course load. Oscar, how about you? You're engineering?
So I took AS Bio and AS Calculus PC last year. And this year I took AS Chemistry, AS Multivariable. And on the humanities side, I took like AS Social Reform last semester and AS Research Sem this semester. And I think English is technically AS, but yeah.
Yeah, all English for juniors and seniors is AS. Cooper, how about you?
I'm taking AS Research Sem with Oscar, actually. Also AS English. Took AS Modern Middle East last semester. So
Great. And then Zoe?
I'm taking AS Physics, AS Spanish, AS Research Seminar, AS Math, AS Spanish. Did I say that? AS Econ. I'm taking economics this year, which I really love. So that's kind of my schedule.
And then Connie, any AS classes in this year?
Not yet, maybe in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. So typically ninth graders, you're not going to have a lot of AS courses available, but you'll certainly move up into them. So again, students, can sort of jump in, but the idea is the rigor and connection of a college level seminar course, right? That's the idea of AS, is to get you ready to go into a 300 level college course and just crush it, right? Like just do really, really well. And so those small class sizes, those in-depth explorations, use of primary texts in humanities or hands-on learning in the sciences are really prioritized in those courses. So Solbein, I hope that answers your question. We're actually putting in the email this week to you a course guide. So that might help clear up some other questions about classes that are available.
Matt, just one thing to add, hopefully it's helpful. So our advanced topic tutorials usually rigor enough to be even one step ahead of AP, but students always find it actually equipped to actually do a little bit prep on themselves, usually work with our faculty to actually take the AP courses if that's of interest in senior year without creating too much burden, because our AS course has already laid a very solid foundation for the students. So again, that's something, it's depending on the faculty, if they have schedules, usually they will have a small group in the spring to have a little AP prep, but that's never like too stressful onto the student schedule. So that's just something you can be aware of. It could be a potential option.
Yeah, and we offer the AP tests right here on campus. We're a test center, so we can do that as well. So
I also want to really quickly add, before coming to St. Andrews, I went to a school with a British curriculum, so kind of specific on like the IB curriculum and such. I came from a school that did IGCSE programs, which is kind of similar. So personally, I felt that by the time you took an AS class, you kind of got used to what St. Andrews is asking of you academically. But when I first came here, personally, my biggest challenge was math. Because IGCSE and IB classes aren't divided into like geometry, algebra, calculus, etc., etc. It's kind of like a mixture of everything in one class. So personally, I came in as a pre-calc student, and kind of getting used to that was a little bit difficult, because pre-calc was an addition of geometry, but I had like part geometry knowledge, part algebra knowledge. I probably did a little bit of calculus in middle school. Also because it was an IGCSE program. So what I would say to that is just once you get placed into a math class, I would advise just doing a little bit of like research into what exactly the topics are covered, because and like what the level below that class covers, because I came in not knowing that, so I had a couple holes in my like math knowledge, that made freshman year a little bit difficult. I mean, going on, like continuing on, it was a lot better, but because like an IB or a GCSE program takes on a different math curriculum, I think just kind of making sure that there aren't holes in your knowledge, I think is important when transitioning into our school and like the AS programs and such.
That's a great bit of advice, Heidi. Thank you so much. And
Um,
when you enroll, one of the first things you'll do is fill out a course selection form, and that'll kick off your communication with Melinda Tower, who's the director of studies, and Harvey Johnson, who's the dean of math and science for that particular reason. So, and then Heidi, did you move math classes in your freshman year, or did you just sort of stick it out and fill in those gaps?
I actually dropped a level, as in I was placed into a higher level than I expected to. So I dropped one level freshman year, and honestly, great idea, but also I still had a couple holes because again, I hadn't really taken a geometry class. So for me, that was a lot of extra work during freshman year, which ideally you don't really want in freshman year. So just, just kind of knowing in that and acknowledging that you might have a couple holes if you're coming from a different curriculum, I think is important when you're coming in as a freshman.
Absolutely. Great advice. Great advice.
Hey, man, I think Zoe had something to add as well.
Yeah.
Well, I can also talk about that a little bit too. I had the same experience because Bermuda is a British territory. So we do IBs too. I will say that there are some things even now where I'm finding that I like don't really have as much depth as everyone else does. That just has gone to school kind of like through the kind of different levels. I also had the math where it was kind of jumping around everywhere. And my English classes were different and everything like that. But I will say also that the teachers are really, really good at kind of like meeting with you outside of class as well. So if there is kind of like a spot where you're like, I'm really sorry, but I didn't really learn this much or in as much in depth as like the other students in the class were, because they do, or most of them do live on campus or very close to campus. It's very easy to meet with them. And they're really, really good about that as well. And kind of helping you gain that kind of material that you would have lost from the years before.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think peer tutors too. Oscar, aren't you a math help guy?
Yeah, I'm doing math and science help. Yeah, and it is pretty interesting because like there are people across all math levels, like in like for every single math help group. So I guess no matter like what question you have, as long as you come to us like in our during our period, and there will be a person or two like be able to provide help to you. And it does also help me, how to say, reveal the knowledge I've learned like last year or in my freshman year by helping others, and which is like a mutual benefit, I guess.
Yeah, I saw your name on the physics room last night, and I was like, Oscar's doing a lot of tutoring this year. So thank you. And thanks to Zoe and Heidi for some of that explanation. Real quick, Zoe and Heidi, as seniors, college process, I know it might not be totally settled, but just real quick, can you reflect a little bit on your college placement experience so far?
Yeah, so I actually got into my school early decision. So I've known since December. So that's been really nice. But I will say that the college counselors are amazing at kind of helping you through everything. I've definitely met with Mr. Hansel a lot of times, especially very close to the kind of like the deadlines, because I was starting to get like really nervous about which place I should apply to. And he is really good at kind of like helping you talk through it, making sure that the school that you're choosing to kind of apply to is the one that you want to, and not really kind of from any outside factors. because it definitely is really important to choose a school that you want to go to. It definitely changes kind of your whole experience. And then they're also really good at kind of reading through essays, helping edit them, making sure that your activities list is kind of laid out exactly how it should be, everything like that, all the logistics that can get a little bit confusing. They're really, really good at kind of helping you through that as well. So yeah.
Yeah, and I would also add on to that. We currently have Mr. Hansel and Miss Hastings, and I believe Dr. Pitts is also joining the counseling team, and Miss Rojas in the department. And they work so hard over the summer as well, trying to get students to make sure that they're on top of any deadlines for like scholarships, not even just like applications, but scholarships as well. And they're happy to help you all throughout the summer and all through like winter break and such, to review essays if you started early on them at all. And as we've been mentioning, a lot of teachers live on campus and live near you. And I have Miss Hastings as my as my college counselor, and she was my English teacher sophomore year, and she does duty on dorm sometimes as well. So there are so many opportunities for you to be in contact with your college counselor. So anytime you have a question, it's so easy to reach out to them, because I know college application process is so confusing. I'm sure at some point I made Miss Hastings quite annoyed with all my emails and all my notifications just from me for the smallest of questions, but she always answered them for me. So I think that kind of support system you have through probably the most stressful period of time you probably had experienced in your life up until that point. I think that was really nice. And after all of that is over, and after they help you with your applications, and when you're waiting on decisions, they make sure to keep in touch with you and make sure that to check in about like how you feel about your decisions, and go through all your decisions so that you can make the best one, both in terms of your fit in the school and also like financial decisions as well. So I think they provide really good help making sure and going through the checklist of all the different aspects of college applications.
Yeah, I will also say as well that one thing that I found really helpful was at the end of junior year, they kind of met with all the juniors and had a huge slideshow on kind of laying out the logistics of kind of SCORE that we use as a website that we use, and College Board, everything like that. So there was a huge PowerPoint that I used over the summer as well. It gave example essays, like entries, what's a good one, what's a bad one, like what's to kind of like, how should you start it? Because obviously like these college essays, especially the last question, is so open-ended. The last question is kind of like just write about anything you want the college admissions to know. So it's really open-ended. So I didn't really know where to start, how to start, all that kind of stuff. Because you want to, it's a lot of like, it's not very many words too. So you want to say exactly what you want to. So I found that to be very helpful as well, with that kind of stuff. So.
Thanks, seniors. Juniors, I hope you were just listening to those two great answers. Particularly Heidi, well done remembering to mention Miss Rojas, who's sort of the admin support in college counseling, but probably the most important person on campus when you're in the college process, right? So
and Miss Porch with all the testing and such.
Absolutely. So great. Well, folks, we're coming up on an hour. Just to close out that college counseling question, we do a big session on Visit Back Day with the college counselors. So if that's something as an international student, if you're not able to come to Visit Back Day, I'd love to put you directly in touch with Jason Hansel to talk a little bit about that. I think our approach is really unique and really great and really successful as well. And so happy to share more offline. If you have a particular question, please email me. Any last questions? Yeah. Thank you. And yes, thank you, students. I'm echoing that from our audience, but especially echoing that as an admissions person and someone who asked you to get up early on a Sunday. So the van is parked right out front. Come join me. We're going to go to Starbucks and we'll figure out the rest of this beautiful day. Folks in the audience, thank you again. If you have any questions as you're coming up on this big decision, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, Will Robinson, your interviewer, anyone at admissions will help you with your questions or help get you in touch with the person who can answer your questions. We really enjoyed getting to know you through the process, and of course are really hoping that you'll join this great group of international students and students in general next fall. So thank you again. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Students, see you soon and take care. Bye-bye.